as a high spirit wind lawyer of the Mississippi Camp, giving our honor and glory to the Heavenly Father, Yahawah Bahashim Yahawashi, Bahashim Rakakodash. We also want to give double honors to our elder apostles and elder bishops of Great Millstone who rule well, as well as peace and blessings, health and wellness to the house of David the elect. I was a high spirit wind lawyer, and today I want to go into a topic, as you can see the title, Yahawah, why Yahawashi wants us to conquer the city within. It's our first project. So, as you can see, Yahawah Bahashim, he wants us to be rulers. He wants us to be conquerors. All right? And when you come into this truth, what you find out is, all right, like the Apostle Paul said, I put my body under subjection. All right, lest that I myself be a castaway. But when you first come into this truth, all right, the first thing that you have to put under subjection is your flesh. And your flesh is like wild territory. It's like what Esau, as a colonizer, would describe the rest of the unconquered world. He spread their propaganda that these people are pagans, these people are savages, and they have to be colonized, they have to be conquered, they have to be tamed, they have to be civilized, all right? But your flesh, all right, hey, going back to Blue Letter Bible, all right, if you look up the word flesh, it goes back to the Greek. Was it sardix? And if it's, enough brothers, a brother could just, put the definition up, the Greek word. But it's where you get the word, it's where you get a particular gemstone from. Because there's a particular gemstone. One gemstone is called carnelian, all right? That goes back to like the cornel or skin. But it's another gemstone called, I used to be heavy into this, sardonyx, and I could be mispronouncing it. But basically the word flesh, the definition, it goes back to the animal nature. And what you'll realize is you being Yahawah Bahashim Yahawashi's firstborn, all right, and he put you in this earth suit, right? He called the flesh, this earth suit called the flesh. The first task is to conquer the earth suit. Now, granted, you come into this knowledge, right? And you follow the laws, statutes, and commandments. But what you don't realize is that we're in our enemy's territory. We are in Babylon the Great. So there are so many traps and snares that doesn't go back to the law of Moses directly. All right. But it's insidious, and it'll lead you into dark paths. And it'll just drain you, and it'll make you a weaker version of yourself, even though you are maintaining in the spirit, man. All right, to the point where it could lead you to fall after truth, man. All right, because it'll put a demonic spell under you, man, or put a demonic spell over you. All right, but the first, when you come into this truth, Yahawah Bahashim Yahawashi is grooming you, all right, is molding you to rule the nations, man. Pursuing to Revelation 2:26, he that endure, all right, shall rule over the nations. I will give him power over the nations. But the first thing you have to have power, and the first project that Yahawah Bahashim Yahawashi has allotted to you is the rule over your nature, rule over your flesh. And it's not just, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal. That should be light work. Thou shalt not commit adultery. That's light work. That comes with being an Israelite once you know your nationality. But then it's just having self-government, because you're going to find out that self-government means just that. It's certain rules that you have to follow that only pertains to you, but it might not pertain to the next brother because he has his own government. See, every brother is a government within himself. You're already a world within yourself. Your mind is already like a planet within itself. Your dome within your enclosure is your spirit, and your spirit is like a universe or a world, a cosmos within itself. That's why you have your own taste, your own preference. All right, shalom, shalom. That's why you have your likes and dislikes. That's why I might wear button-ups all the time, but this brother might wear plain t-shirts, man. I might be more of a dainty person. You know, I like my delicacies, my little snacks, right? Like I was at an Elon restaurant and they had tiramisu's. They had they had a mango cheesecake. But it was like royal dainties, man. All right, but the other brother, he might be more into the wines. He might be more into, you know, high grade liquors. You know what I mean? Take a shot here and there. I know some brothers, man, you royal, you get them expensive grades, man. But y'all got that high standard. But I'm saying all that to say that you are a world within yourself. And what I've learned, and it's truth, and to be honest, I've learned it over and over and over again. Because you have to have self-government in a society that makes you impulsive. You have to have self-government in a society that makes you spontaneous. All right? So the first project that Yahawah Yahawashi has allotted to us is to rule over yourself. It's to conquer yourself. Conquer your nature. All right? Because I'm going to give you an example. There's a movie called Alexander, right? It's one of my favorite movies. All right? And it has a lot of sodomite stuff, but in general, it's one of my favorite movies. And long story short, in the movie, there was a wild horse, right? A wild black horse. And nobody wanted to deal with the horse because it was wild and untamed. But Alexander basically broke the horse, and it became his horse. And it basically got him where he needed to go faster because he's now on a horse. And that's how your flesh works. Your flesh is like a wild horse. But Yahawah Yahawashi, he made it that way so you could conquer that horse, man. Your flesh, your inner self, your inner world is like a city, man. It's like a city full of heathen. And Yahawah Yahawashi wants you to subdue the city within you. And then to civilize it with laws and rules. Now, the city should already be following the dietary laws. You know, thou shalt not kill, thou shalt not steal, thou shalt not cover thy neighbor's wife. But then you have systems within yourself. And once again, I've been through this shit time and time again. All right, I've had my ups and I've had my downs. All right, because sometimes when you're distracted, you don't even realize you're distracted. Sometimes when you're sidetracked, you don't even realize you're not sidetracked. Sometimes you don't even realize you're sidetracked a lot. All right, but the first project is to conquer you and put yourself under rules and guidelines, man. That's self-government. The first form of power is power over yourself. You had brothers who desire power. You have men who desire power, but they failed the first project, and that was to have power over themselves. Now, we all slip. We all in the flesh. We all men. But these brothers justified it. They justified not having power over themselves, man. Then we all born with a demon. We all born with a vice that at some point we're going to have to cut off. Either you're going to have to either you're going to have to moderate your shit or cut it off. And I've learned that all brothers have something that's like a thorn in their flesh. And at some point, they got to just cut it off, man. But let me get the scripture from Yahawah, though. Proverbs 16:32. He that is slow to anger is better than mighty. He that ruleth his spirit than he that taketh the city. But the first thing you got to rule is your spirit. All right? You're not a king until you conquer you. This is real talk. And there's levels to conquering you. I would say the first stage of subduing you is that libido. Those impulses. Because the strongest impulses is what? That libido. So you got all these things that want you to have your libido all over the place. All right? And you can run into so many fucking brick walls because of that libido. But those lower nature impulses are the first thing that if you subdue, then you have a more sound mind. All right? The second thing is your appetite, right? You're not being spontaneous. You put yourself under a meal plan. Brothers talking about cooking more. Now, I'm guilty of this, but I've put myself under the budget because the spirit be pushing brothers the budget. But you're subjecting yourself to guidelines. That makes you a ruler. When you could discipline yourself and you could, what's the word? Deny self because of your guidelines or your boundaries, you are a ruler of yourself. So you've subdued and regulated yourself. You've subdued and civilized yourself. So you are your first project. The first project in conquering school is you. The first project in leadership school is you. All right? The first project in rulership school is conquering you. Conquering this body, this earth suit, man. All right? And that's what our forefathers told us. It's like the thing you conquer is lust. Because the Most High, he's a duality. He deals with dualities. So it's not like it's a real sacrifice, like you just finna be burning the whole time. It is that when you conquer one thing, you gain another thing. So when you complete a certain project, there's a reward. All right? And you'll realize that once you practice certain levels of discipline or you practice certain areas of discipline, you'll realize like, damn, I have mental clarity now. Damn, I feel like I mentally just left a prison. Damn, my mind is sharper. I have better recollection. All right? Then you realize you're not supposed to just sit down and let your flesh just run all over the place. You're supposed to conquer your flesh. But like I said, who you are yourself is like uncharted territory, or it's like territory filled with savages. But you got to conquer the land and put them under your rule. Meaning you got to make them follow your rules. Make your flesh follow your rules. Because Babylon is always, he's exciting, he's provoking your flesh. Babylon wants you to look at his kingdom. The king of Babylon wants you to look at this little carnival, this little freak show he calls a kingdom, and he wants you to be distracted. He wants you to ooh, ah, ooh, ah, ooh, ah. This is narrow path 144. 1 Corinthians 9:25. And every man that striveth for the mastery is temperate in all things. Now they do it to obtain a corruptible crown, but we incorruptible. Temperate means balance. When you put yourself on the rules, all right, when I buy my liquor, this is my budget for my liquor. Or I might take a shot a day, whatever, man. But it's under rules. You ain't just going off impulse, man. All right. When I buy my woman, I buy so many times a month or some shit. You know what I mean? As opposed to you just your impulse is that wild horse just running. You saying, you ain't even saying whoa, yo, this wild horse just taking you all over the place, man. All right. So the first, we really are our first project in rulership school. You are your first project. It's like if someone sells you insurance, right? And you got these little Prime America things, right? Well, before you could sell somebody else insurance, you got to get it for yourself. So it's only fair that before we could make this Moabite follow the laws and civilize this motherfucker, we got to subdue ourselves. Before I break this Moabite skull in, all right, you got to really break yourself in. All right? So we're in rulership school. We got to conquer our lower nature. You got to get over your flesh. Your flesh is always giving contrary feelings to the feeling you should have. You got to really get over yourself. All right? And pray to Yahawah that he gives you strength to get over yourself. Because part of being a power is you have power over your flesh. The four virtues, temperance, fortitude, prudence, and justice, those are things that you gotta exhibit despite how you feel. But to execute virtues, despite what your flesh is saying, is a form of demonstrating power. That's why it's a virtue, because everybody doesn't have it. Everybody doesn't have it, man. But you are your first project. You know, and that's something that I'm learning as a grown man. And these are it's certain things you go through that you got to figure out for yourself. You know, like that's why the Spirit want me to let that go. It's not that it's a sin, but it has a negative ripple effect on my life. I have no order in my life. I have no principles about myself. And if you haven't ruled you, somebody else can rule you. If you're not governed by guidelines and rules that's for the greater good, somebody else can govern you and conquer you and just run you. You know? You know? And it's easier said than done, but it's a project, it's a challenge. And if it doesn't challenge you, then it won't change you, man. You know, like I said, having systems about ourselves. We are a kingdom is a government, but the first government is you. But there's no pre-existing government. Somebody had to take that land and then enforce their rules and their laws over the inhabitants of the land. So you got to take your wild nature, your pagan nature, your savage nature, and not only do they follow the general rules, which is the laws, statutes, and commandments, but then they have to follow your impulses has to be subject to your rules. Yeah, the impulse says, I got the taste for this burger, this fries. But you say, well, I bought ground beef in bulk according to my budget. You see, now you're ruling. Now you're a king of yourself. And what I just said was minuscule, but it's important because one observation about Babylon is that it makes you impulsive. You know, it makes you impulsive. And an impulsive man is a dangerous man, and he's a weak man. And we've all been there to one degree or another, but that's why the Spirit is on me and brothers alike to do lessons like this. You know, because you'll be following the law, statutes, and commandments with barbecue sauce all over your lip, man. With an STD. You know what I mean? Because you missing the point, you know? All right? Yeah, you know, in this kingdom, you could get an STD, but it's herbs for that. But you know what I mean? Your flesh rules you to where, like, man, you just is in a chaotic situation all the time. 2 Corinthians 7:1. This is from 12 tribes, constant recognition. Having therefore these promises, dearly beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and spirit, perfecting holiness in the fear of Yahawah. You know? I'm going to read that again. This is from 12 tribes, constant recognition. 2 Corinthians 7:1. Having therefore these promises, dearly beloved, let us cleanse ourselves from all filthiness of the flesh and spirit, perfecting holiness in the fear of Yahawah. You're perfecting purity, man. Getting in tune with that angel within. And that angel is a direct son or offspring or descendant of Yahawah Bahashim Yahawashi, a direct descendant of the Father of lights. Abba, a war. All right? Abba, Father, a war light. Narrow path 144K. Romans 8:13. For if you live after the flesh, you shall die. But if you do the spirit, do mortify the deeds of the body, you shall live. You know? But this, it's funny that it's called Romans because we're in modern Rome. And Roman culture this is live after the flesh culture. Yahawah, Shalom, brother. James 1 and 21. Wherefore lay apart all filthiness and superfluity of naughtiness, and receive with meekness the engrafted word which is able to save your soul. So, the book of Sirach is more like a personal book, right? Because we all follow the laws of King Masha, which is which descended from Yahawah Bashim El Shai. But then, like the book of Sirach, it goes into those interpersonal situations, those individual situations where you got to use your own judgment and be real with yourself and be honest with yourself and say, I got to stop that shit. Whatever it is. All right? Because certain things can ruin your soul. Certain things can ruin your fucking soul to where you don't even realize that your life is chaotic because your life is a reflection of what's going on inside. Your outer world is chaotic because guess what? Your inner world is chaotic. And the moment you conquer your inner world and you civilize it, then your outer world will stay still. You won't have all these different moving pieces and you don't know where everything is and you just kind of scattered. And this is something I've learned, and I'm just putting it on wax, brothers. For my journey and my path and my trial and error and things that I'm learning from. And then when the Spirit shows me, or I get that epiphany, I get the lesson in the trial, I record it through the Spirit, and it's like shit, the first project is conquering you. We are in rulership school, and the first thing you got to conquer is you, and it's only fair. I can't sell you this herbal salve if I never used it myself. If I was never injured and using it myself, then why I wouldn't? Because I actually make herbal salves for pain, and I wouldn't want somebody to work for me if they don't use my product. They got to trust it themselves. All right, 12 tribes, constant recognition. Galatians 4 and 13. KJV, you know how through infirmity of the flesh I preached the gospel unto you at the first. Yep, because the Apostle Paul had an infirmity, and it doesn't say particularly what it is, but basically struggle with stuff, man. He had some type of ailment, but this is something I learned, and also I learned when you got discipline over your flesh, you have mental clarity, and that mental clarity is for the external and internal. So you start healing yourself. You start figuring out a shalom a lot, and you develop inner peace. And it takes years to kind of get that pattern on point, but it's worth it, man. So you realize that peace is better than pleasure, but when you receive that peace, you start to figure out shit. You start organizing things in your world, man. Now you're civilizing your city. Now your city is under construction and not under destruction. Okay? It's a beautiful thing. Because sometimes you don't realize you were at a low point. We are in rulership school, and you are your first project. You are your first challenge to overcome, and you have to overcome yourself, and then put yourself in the rules along with the laws first to tailor for you. And sometimes a brother get to a point in his life where he don't drink. Nobody told him to stop drinking. He just get to a point where it's like, bro, I'm just not gonna drink, because that this one vice creates 10 different obstacles in your life. It's like a bowling ball. One vice can create 10 different obstacles in your life and 10 possible worst case scenarios from one fucking vice. It just started lightning when I did that. Same thing with women. Some brothers, they get to a point where they just say, look, bro, I'm good. I'm celibate. Nobody told you to be that. Now the scripture says what? There be men who have made themselves eunuchs for the kingdom of heaven's sake. Because they look back at their life. They look back at their life and said, damn, all my problems was rooted. Look back at themselves and said, all of my problems, even subtle problems, was routed back to. And then when a brother take that variable out of his life, the storm leaves. And then that make me realize that, hey, the water to you, brother. Hey, that make me realize, man, Yahawah Bahashim Yahawashi, we had to go through the stuff to realize what was good and evil for us. So I don't really have them type of regrets. But then on a greater level, what you're going to struggle with until you evolve and get more. And certain things you don't cut off, because if you cut off everything, you'll fucking go crazy. But certain of us brothers, it's like, bro, like, fuck it. And that's how you know that was that demon. Because that one thing you got rid of, it just, when you got rid of that one thing, or Yahawah Bahashim Yahawashi got rid of that thing for you, the storm left. The storm left, man. And then when the storm, your mind is still, then you start cleaning up stuff in your life. Now, this is part of organizing yourself spiritually, physically, financially, all that. You know? And that's why I love the fact that Elder Apostle Gabar pushed the mindset of you're not really an elder, so you've been in this truth 20 years. Because it's one thing to preach, and it's another thing to experience and to have your own story. And if that's the case, I'll just end it the same, man. But I'll revisit this in the morning, all right? Hey, Yahawah Bahashim Yahawashi, Bahashim Hakodash. Hey, the water for tuning in. All right, hey, till the next time, Shalom. I'll be willing that the most I got out of my spirit. I'll revisit this in the morning. Shalom.